Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for joining us here in our beautiful, beautiful city of Providence. As you might imagine, we are all here to officially, publicly, and formally endorse Helena Buonanno Foulkes to be the next governor of the state of Rhode Island. All right, so we have an amazing group of leaders here in our city and from our community. And each person in turn will be speaking and sharing their perspective on why Helena is the right person for this moment. I myself reflect on my entire experience and my history here as a Rhode Islander, born and raised. I'm someone who, when my family would go on long trips, and you're on 95 coming back to Rhode Island, and see the tips of the Superman building, you feel that special, we're home kind of feel. I know we all feel that. I'm someone who, even to this day, every time I go over the Jamestown Bridge, you still get kind of queasy, and you feel that sense of pride when you look down and you see all the sailboats. We are Rhode Islanders through and through. And as Rhode Islanders, we care very deeply about the future of our state, the future of our communities. And it's because of that deep care, affection, love that we have for our state that we're here to endorse Helena to be our next governor. I've gotten to know Helena over the years, and for me, the issues matter, and I'll speak about that in just a second. But having been mayor now for almost 8 years, you learn a lot about what these jobs actually entail. You grow as a leader, you change, and you become a better, more effective leader over time. And so there's certain qualities and traits that I look for more than anything. And what has impressed me most about Helena is, first of all, her humility. And it takes a certain level of humility to do this job well. You can't always be right, you won't always be right, but it takes a certain humility and courage to sometimes stare the most brutal facts in the face and assess the situation where you are, not with rose-colored glasses, but with clear eyes. It takes that level of humility and, frankly, confidence to be the leader that we need. Another trait that's required is drive. This is really hard work. And it's nothing that gets done overnight. You need a persistent drive, a relentless work ethic, and a focus that's going to see your initiatives to the end so that they change and improve the quality of life for Rhode Islanders. And last, the last quality and trait that has impressed me so much about Helena is her courage. I want the next governor of Rhode Island to be willing to take on the hardest issues, regardless of the personal and sometimes political cost. I want someone who's willing to extend so that our reach is always beyond our grasp. And look, change is not easy. Every time you push for change, there are invested stakeholders, folks who are invested in preserving the status quo. And you're not always going to make everyone happy. But if you have the courage, the humility, and the drive to keep pushing, you can be the leader that meets the moment. And that's who I believe Helena is. On the issues, there are two issues that stand out above all else: the economy and education. On the economy, we're faced with an economy that for too long, and frankly, more and more intensely, is leaving folks behind. We need an economy, or we're seeing an economy that, according to what we're hearing and seeing, is more than likely facing a difficult stretch, if not an outright recession. There is not another candidate in this race better positioned with the training, the background, and the skills to confront the challenges that we will face in our economy, while at the same time rebuilding and preparing us for the economy of the future. And when it comes to education, I speak first and foremost as the son of immigrants. My parents come to this country just as so many other immigrants with hopes and dreams for themselves and for their kids. We put full faith into the public education system. However, once we're here, we find that our schools have been failing our kids for far too long. It is unacceptable. And we need somebody who's willing to think big and have bold, ambitious plans. And if there's one thing that speaks to me more than anything else, is Helena's pledge to stake her entire governorship, to say that she will not run for re-election unless she gets schools on the right track. That tells me that education is going to be a priority that she's going to focus on every single day. So for all of these reasons, I want to make clear that while we're all here to support Helena for governor, it's not disparaging any of the other candidates. The other candidates, they're good people, they're well-meaning folks. This is not anti-them, it is pro-Helena. Helena is the leader that our state needs at this moment, and because of that, I and the folks here, we are proud to endorse her to be the next governor of the state of Rhode Island. So with that, I'd like to call up a really good friend and a great leader here in our city and our state, the Majority Whip, Senator Maryellen Goodwin.
Right here. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, and good morning. And I'm pleased to be joined here by you, first and foremost, Helena, and our whole host of guests behind us, my colleagues in government, you, my dear friend, Mayor Elorza, my former colleague, Representative Almeida, and my former colleague from the House of Representatives, even though he made it big time to Congress, Congressman Patrick Kennedy. I've been in politics so long. Patrick Kennedy and I actually shared a district in the Mount Pleasant, Elmhurst section of Providence, and I think we served the people pretty well, right, Patrick? So good to see you here, my friend. But for the purpose of why I'm here, let me just say good morning. I am honored to be standing here this morning to endorse our next governor, Helena Buonanno Foulkes. I have been in politics, as I just stated, for a long time, and I have met an awful lot of candidates in the years that I've come to serve. And I'll admit, right off the bat, I wasn't quite sure about Helena right off the bat. But every time we met and every time we spoke, I became more and more impressed with Helena Foulkes and all that she had to say. I was impressed by her compassion, her deep understanding of the issues that Rhode Islanders will be facing. She has a keen intellect, and her leadership skills are unparalleled. I think leadership is really the key word here. I mean, the General Assembly is going to do what the General Assembly does. But when you have someone, Ted Nisi, not that funny, but when you have a real leader in the room, I mean, that's really what will propel and help to move the state forward. I remember when we did in the General Assembly the road work, we had a governor in the midst of moving that proposal forward, a proposal that the state so desperately needed. And that governor, she was there day in and day out, and I think Helena Foulkes will be that kind of leader, bringing big, bold initiatives to the State House and helping to move that forward. But anyway, without further ado with me going on, I just want to say that I'm honored to be supporting Helena Foulkes here today. I think by far she is the most qualified candidate, and as Mayor Elorza so ably said, this is not about any of the other candidates. It's been an honor to work with the current governor and our Secretary of State, but this really is about leadership and my support of Helena Foulkes. So thank you very much. Thank you for hearing from me. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Representative Joseph Almeida.
I got 2 words for you. Community everywhere. Well, I'm walking all over the state of Rhode Island, and every time I turn around, I see Helena. I see her at the gay parade. I see her at the CV Unity Day that we had, the Puerto Rican Festival. And then I'm in Southside. I see her all over Southside. Community everywhere. And what this good sister is going to bring is what we've all been talking about, education. education. We're not going to make it no further. We can't do any well if education doesn't begin to support all of us. I am very confident that Helena will bring education to the table and that she will make it really good for the people in the South Side area, Washington Park, Mount Hope, for the city of Providence. Helena, you know you got me, girl. And by the way, my wife's not here today, and because she's working. You hear me that? Working. But she was watching TV one day, and she's seen Helena's commercial. And I'm upstairs doing paperwork in my office, and I had to come running down. She says, Joe, get down here. So I go downstairs, and there she is, and she's talking about education. I love my wife. Yeah, buddy, put that on tape, okay? I love my wife. But I love the way in which she gets involved in politics. And if you, Helena, can pull somebody like my wife that none of y'all don't know, but you will get to know her. She fell in love with this woman because of the education factor. And when she finally got to meet the woman, forget it, it was over. So I don't know if I'm running for office or my wife Zoraida is. But the fact is that we need more women in power to step to the plate, to do what's right, to take care of our families, to take care of this great state. And of course, Helena, we know you're going to be everywhere. You're going to be in the community. So we wish you, and I'm here to support this beautiful, strong, intelligent woman. Well, now I get to introduce Congressman Kennedy, who I've only met once or twice, but I've always liked this guy. He's a great man, and he's a hard-working man. Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to Congressman Kennedy.
Thank you, Joe. And to Pastor and to the mayor and to my great friend Maryellen Goodwin. Maryellen, we're all behind you. We know you're fighting a big battle with cancer. And one of the really inspirational things about Helena is that she's a cancer survivor. And she kept fighting. And I know how long you've been fighting this, and we're all behind you. And I remember and we all know we can't do it alone. We need our family. So I brought mine with me today. We have Harper, Owen, wave. I'm sure you can't tell that he's my son at all. Nellie, Nora, and the guy hiding behind everyone, he's clearly not made for politics if he's hiding for the cameras. Marshall. So I'm a person in long-term recovery, which means I have not had to drink or drug in over 11 and a half years. And when I first built my recovery, I knew I had to build it on a strong foundation. And these kids are my foundation. My wife is my foundation. And I know that Helena's got it right, because we're also in a period of recovery from this not only terrible pandemic, the racial pandemic, the economic challenges and uncertainty that people all over this country have been facing, and in here in Rhode Island. And if we're going to move forward, if we're going to have a strong recovery, we need to build a strong foundation. And that begins with our kids. It begins with investing in those children who are going to be our future. Now, what's the motto of our state? Hope. Hope. And there's a lot of need out there for hope. People are suffering tremendously. And I'm happy some people are satisfied about where we are today. But I know from most of the people I speak to these days, they're not satisfied with where we are in this country today. They want us to move forward. And we're not going to move forward just standing still. We're not going to move forward with the status quo. We have to stand up and say we're ready to send a message that we want something more for this state, for this country. Lord knows we've been in the most extraordinary times in our nation's history the last several years. We cannot operate business as usual. We need someone who's going to lead, both nationally and in our state, that's going to really bring us together. And I think that we have been so blessed here in Rhode Island to have Helena Foulkes step forward. She didn't need a step forward. She had a comfortable life, successful career, top of her game, at the highest echelons of corporate power, including leading one of our state's biggest employers, certainly the biggest employer in northern Rhode Island, which I used to represent. And CVS is part of this state, and they're going to be an important part of our state's future. And Helena knows that, and knows that in order to build a strong future, we need to build it by investing our kids, and we're going to have to build it by investing in the economy. And what are the future jobs that are going to help employ our state's residents so they don't have to have their kids leave Rhode Island in order to get a job? We're going to have to invest in innovation. We're going to have to take all those Build Back Better jobs that we've been promised, that have the funding behind them, and not squander this opportunity. So if you're fine with the status quo, stick with what's safe. Stick with incumbents. But if you want to really send a message that Rhode Island's future is nothing to take for granted, that we have to invest in it and be bold, even if we're the smallest state in the country, we can think the biggest, boldest ideas. And the person to do that is someone with the competency and the leadership, the ability that's been recognized throughout her career. I have had the honor of working with Helena in her role at CVS, and we all know what she's done there, and we know what she's done for health care in this country with the ACA and how important health care is for all our state's residents. These are the reasons why we need to get behind Helena Foulkes as our next governor. So I am honored to be with her, my former colleagues and old friends here in Rhode Island. This state is an incredible state. When they get out and see you, Helena, as I know they are already, you can run all the ads in the world, and those ads that you have are great, but people need to connect with you, and I know the reason you're coming on so strong is that people see one of their own in you, they see the best of themselves in you, and they see the future of Rhode Island with your leadership. And so now it's my honor to turn it back to our great mayor of Providence, Mayor Elorza, who I was just with in Washington, D.C., and who's led this city to introduce our candidate for the hour. Mayor.
Patrick Kennedy for president, folks. That was amazing, Patrick. Thank you. Thank you, Senator Goodwin. Thank you, Rep. Almeida. Thank you, Congressman Kennedy. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Now it is my great pleasure and honor to introduce the next governor of the state of Rhode Island, Helena Foulkes.
Wow. Thank you all so much. I am so honored. I'm so honored to be with all of you. I just cannot thank you enough. Mayor Elorza, your leadership, your trust in me means the world to me. Rep. Almeida, thank you so much. It has been an honor to be able to walk with you and be introduced by you. Whip Goodwin, you are an inspiration for all of us, honestly. You are a woman who has persevered. You and I talk or text frequently, and everyone is pulling for you. You know that. We love you very much, and we are so proud of you and thankful for all you have done in this great city and state. Congressman Kennedy, thank you so much for bringing the whole clan here, and for your leadership, and for your honesty, your willingness to talk about your own troubles, which I've seen firsthand being with you at Pastor Aquino's great church. Pastor, thank you so much for being here. You're amazing. But what it means to everyone, Patrick, as you know, is we all have vulnerabilities and failings. And when someone as powerful as you talks about that, it allows us to be honest. And I am just so grateful. Look, this is a lot of work, but I absolutely love this state. I was born and raised here. I'm in this race because I want to make a big difference for the people of Rhode Island. I've never been a politician before, but what I do know how to do is lead. And for me, leading starts with having great people around you, the best and the brightest who really understand the issues, but also listening and knowing, as you said so well, Mayor, that sometimes you don't have the answer. Sometimes the answer comes from the people who know much more than you do. And if you can pull those people together, really listen, and then lead, make things happen, hard things happen, I think that's what the people of Rhode Island are looking for. So I am so honored to be here with all of you, and I look forward to meeting every person in this state to the extent I can. I want to be the person who serves everyone here, who's lifting us up so that every person in this great state can live the dreams and the lives they want to do. That's why I'm running. I care deeply about education and the economy, but ultimately it's because that's in service of giving people the lives that they'd love to have in this incredible state. We're so blessed, but we do deserve more. We deserve to be a state that is more than just okay, but a great, great state that is living up to our promise. So with all of that, thank you very much for being here, and I think we'll open it up for a little Q&A right now.
Congressman, you mentioned CVS. CVS has been sued now by another state for its alleged role in the opioid epidemic. And given your advocacy, what are your thoughts on that and Ms. Foulkes' role at CVS?
Well, first of all, CVS has led this country in the way that it has expanded community health care. I mean, I know with these kids, when I get up in the middle of the night, I want to go to a Minute Clinic. I want to go someplace that's around the corner. And I want a community resource that can take to scale the things that are going to make a difference in terms of mental health. And CVSs across the country are not only practicing what they preach on mental health, they're out there looking out for the mental health of their workforce, and they're out there pushing a real mental health for all of those that shop in CVS stores. I know that because I've been working with them. Karen Lynch, I've been working with her. So, obviously, in the past, CVS also sold cigarettes. And, maybe that wasn't their finest hour, but thanks to Helena Foulkes, who led the charge internally to have them turn away from those profits and to turn towards public health. I mean, that's the reason why I think Helena is her own person. Yes, she has a great background at CVS, but she's stood up and been a leader when it counted. And that's when you have to look to see whether people are the leaders that they profess to be, and I think her record speaks for itself there.
Mayor, you are one of the most visible Latino leaders in Rhode Island. One of Helena Foulkes' opponents would be the first Latino governor. Did you consider that as you decided who you would endorse, the sort of history-making aspect of the secretary's candidacy?
I wouldn't say that, it's not a consideration, and it's not, it's not something that kind of is part of what's out there. But for me, what's best for the state is really what I'm looking for. And I think at the end of the day, that's what everyone is looking for. I also take into account, who would be best for the city and who would be best for the Latino community. And from all of those perspectives, there's just no doubt to me that Helena is the top of the class. If you speak to Latinos, if you speak to people throughout the city, the number one issue they care about, or number two issues that they care about, are education and the economy. I mentioned my parents being immigrants. There is not a single family, and especially a Latino or immigrant family in our state, that doesn't have their entire hopes and dreams for their family resting on the quality of their kids' education. Unfortunately, for many families, we don't have any other choice but to send them to the traditional public schools. And the reality is that they've been failing kids for generations. And someone has to be fed up with the status quo, as Congressman Kennedy mentioned. We can never get complacent and comfortable with mediocre or failing. And sometimes you need an outside voice to say, what the heck is happening here? We can do better, we will do better, and to come up with a plan to do so. And then shifting to the economy, we've had a good run, but I'm fairly worried about the direction that the economy is going in. Inflation is already hitting people's pockets, but even before that, it's hard for people to get by nowadays. People have been scraping by. Housing costs are through the roof right now. We need a strong and vibrant economy that's picking everyone up. When I look at the options in the field, I just don't think that anyone matches pound for pound what Helena brings to the table in terms of her background, her capacity, and her leadership to steer us through what will likely be a tough stretch in our economy. So those are the factors that really ultimately decide.
Just to follow up on that, the most recent Globe Suffolk University poll showed Helena folks doing poorly amongst the Latino and Black voters. And what do you say to those voters if she doesn't have a history with those communities?
Yeah, so first thing I'll say is that she's the only sort of major candidate that has never held office, and so it's understandable that a lot of people just don't know her, and that's part of what this is about. I think that as people get to know her, people get to know her values and her plans. I think that she'll win a lot of people over, but I think that those numbers reflect nothing but the fact that, frankly, a lot of people don't know her, and here we are, 5 or 6 weeks away. Something strange has been happening in politics here and throughout the country. People have been tuned out, and there are a lot of undecideds left at this late stretch. And so as people are going to be making their minds in the coming weeks, we want them to know, what a great option Helena is for the next leader of our state. And so I think that will take care of itself as Black and brown communities, as new voters, get to know who she is and what she has to offer.
Mayor, would you say that Governor Key's leadership has been mediocre or failing, and did that contribute to your endorsement here?
Yeah, I'm not gonna disparage anyone to lift someone else up, what I base this on is what I mentioned earlier. The quality traits, personality in terms of having integrity and good values, but having a certain level of courage, certain level of drive and focus, and certain level of humility, and that matter a lot for me, as well as her focus, her prioritization, and her capacity to execute on economic and education issues. Ultimately, that's what makes a difference.
Mayor, as you mentioned, Helena has never held office before, never run for public office before. If a recession is coming, if a downturn is coming, you concerned about having someone with no government experience who will be learning on a job trying to steer us through that economic situation?
It's funny, I remember answering that same question asked about myself 8 years ago. The reality is that no one steps into these roles fully prepared for what they entail. And I can certainly say it, being at this for now almost 8 years, you learn a lot, you grow a lot. And so the capacity to learn and grow is just fundamental in this. In terms of where she is in the polls, she's charging forward. But at the same time, what is leadership? Leadership is not following the political winds. It's not doing what is already politically popular. Being a leader is about shaping public opinion. It's about believing in yourself and in your convictions. And we're all standing here because we see something in Helena, the true and real leadership qualities that we believe the rest of the state really needs to see and get to know as well. And as they do, I'm confident that they're going to be drawn more and more towards her, eventually support her, and make her the next governor.
Helena, well, I guess the mayor mentioned, maybe people don't know you as well because you haven't run for office before. Joe mentioned that he sees you all around the community, but before running, and I assume you're here to court the Providence vote, particularly we're here in South Providence. is the Broad Street area in South Providence a place that you would spend much time before running for office?
You know, one of the best parts of this journey, honestly, has been realizing that every single part of the state, people do fundamentally want the same things. They want their kids to have really good educations, and for all of us to allow our kids and our grandchildren to live here. So I've been really blessed, honestly, to be able to walk these neighborhoods with people who know it far better than I do. And I think one of the things I want to highlight today is a big part of what people are looking for in their leaders is someone they can trust. And part of it for me with the incredible people I have around me today is I'm drawn to them because I trust them too, and the people in their communities trust them. So that's been a real honor for me, and something I look forward to spending a lot more time in every zip code of the state, and in particular in Providence. Very important that the people of Providence can see me and understand the sense of real focus and compassion I have for them.
Sorry, one more question. You have Joe Almeida here. Joe, I'm sure you know this question's going to come up. Joe was charged before with misusing campaign funds. Does that at all concern you? And also now he's running against Tiara Mack, who probably has a high profile as a progressive. What do you say about having Joe's endorsement for the first question I asked, but also that he's running against a high profile progressive, and does that mean that you're not with that group?
First of all, I would say I don't know one person who hasn't made a mistake in their life, myself included. And I think life is about redemption, and Joe is a spectacular human being. So let me start by saying that. And so, you know, I think that's really what you see here, honestly, is a big tent. We didn't all have a discussion about policy issues, and we know that we don't agree on everything. And that will be the case. But this is about listening and pulling together and finding people all across the state who want to work together because we love this city and we love this state.